tonight is Sharon. And Sharon MacClanahan, she's going to talk about her many travels.
Our many travels in Turkey.
And then she'll tell you about what you'll get after, if you behave yourselves.
Well, I'll talk first and then you can have some treats, or you can get up and help yourself while I'm talking. It's okay with me. So, merhaba, hoş geldiniz. Is hello and welcome. Hi everyone, I'm Sharon MacClanahan, and thanks for coming to hear my travel talk about Turkey. Here's a map of Turkey. So I started to visit Turkey in 2010. My daughter had moved there to follow her love, and the year before. And so in 2010, my first grandchild was born, so as a mom, I had to be there. Over the years, I've gone back 5 more times, and while I'm there, we travel around. She lives in Adana. We travel, rental car oftentimes, and one time I took a trip by plane to Istanbul for a side trip with the other grandmother of my grandchildren. This area has been a crossroads of mankind since ancient times, and there's so much history to see in the ruins and in the museums, and some of the earliest human traces were found in Turkey. This is part of the cradle of civilization. And I'll give you a really quick history. I mean, I'm not here to give you history of Turkey, but I'll give you a really quick one before the slideshow starts. So, let's see, this is where my maps need to be. Okay. So, just to give you an example of where Turkey is in relation to, this is Asia, and so it's the western side of Asia, also considered Asia Minor. It's the northern edge of the Persian area, and it's also considered part of the Middle East. And then here's the in its relation to Europe. There's a small corner of Turkey that's actually in the European continent. So here's a quick, fast history, knowing that I'm probably leaving out so much and possibly making some mistakes. But starting 1700 years BCE, before the Common Era, there were the Hittites with Leo I and Armenian Kingdom. Then there were the Syro-Hittites, like Syria, Syro-Hittites. And then Macedonia with Alexander III, followed by the Roman Empire. So then, when the Western Roman Empire fractures and collapses, the Byzantine Empire is the Eastern Roman Empire that survived after the Western collapsed. And the Emperor Constantine established the capital of Byzantine in Constantinople, named after himself, Constantine, which is now named Istanbul. The Ottoman Empire then replaced the Byzantine Empire, and it was pretty extensive as well. So here's a quick history of the modern empire. The Ottoman Empire replaced Byzantine from 1400s to the early 20th century. Here's a shortened thing. The Ottoman government allied with the Germans and joined World War I on the side of the Central Powers. While the Ottoman Empire was able to largely hold its own during the conflict, it was struggling with internal dissent. The Ottoman Empire's defeat and the occupation of part of its territory by the Allied powers in the aftermath of World War I, resulting in its partitioning and loss of its Middle Eastern territories, which were divided between the United Kingdom and France. And so, because of that time period, the Turkish War of Independence started and was led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. As the leader of the Turkish nationalists, he led the resistance against the Allies as well as against the Ottoman government. And for 4 years of wars, led to the establishment of the Republic of Turkey in the city of Ankara on October 29, 1923, and abolition of the Ottoman Sultanate. And October 29th is celebrated as a national holiday, Republic Day. Okay, Now on to the slideshow. So, most of my trips, of course, my daughter lived in Adana. This is the last flight I came into in this last couple months ago. I was able to come in the afternoon and able to see the city instead of coming in at night in the dark. So I got this picture from the airplane. And here's in the town of Adana. I've been mostly in the areas close to Adana with a few trips further. And when I get to some of the town pictures, I'll point on the map where it was. So I'll be showing you cities, countryside, mountains and beaches, castles, ruins, museums of mosaics and pottery, crafts and jewelry, and the people, the general public, and the amazing food. And I've had Jenna here bring us some Turkish food for you to enjoy while I'm having the talk. And I don't mind if you see the tea ready, you can get up and grab yourself some.
Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
10 minutes, okay.
It's
I'll
really
start.
dynamic.
Okay, I'll start scrolling through my slideshow. So this is walking downtown toward Old Town Adana, a statue of Editor. This is in Old Town Adana. This is a prominent feature in the city of Adana that's called the Big Clock. The Uyuksa. And there's many shops and street vendors. And this is the big mosque that we saw from the air. And my daughter lives fairly close to it. We can walk to the mosque from her home. She lives in a big apartment. And there's a...
Is that open? You can go in there?
Yes. So there's a big park connected to, it's along the river, the Seyhan River, which comes through Adana. And there's a big park that you can walk through. We went inside, and here's what it looks like inside. The big mosque. Very beautiful. Yeah, we can go in unless I think there's services happening. Okay, here's from the town of Adana. You can see mountains that are north of it, the Taurus Mountains. And we often would take trips north, to go. When I was there in January, we went to go see the snow. Because it does not snow in Adana. The mountains catch all the snow. It'll get really cold. And they thought it was going to snow this year, but it almost did, and it didn't snow. So this is driving out of the city. Here's the city back here. Driving north along the river that becomes lakes, because they dam up the river. And there's the countryside of Turkey is farms and orchards, as well as sheep herds that sometimes will block the road as you're driving around. Okay, this next slide will be near the town of Adana, north of Mersin. There's an old ruins. I've got little notes of some of these. This is a very old one, pre-Roman era. And the interesting thing about the ruins to me is that oftentimes, ancient castles or temples have been built, and then as hundreds of years pass and new people come in, they take those spots and build onto them and create it for themselves. So this one went through multiple changes. And one of the stories of going there, we went when my granddaughter was little, and the people that were taking care of the ruins, there's caretakers, and they have a little shop there, and they said, we'll take care of your child while you walk around, because it's very rough country, and we wouldn't want grandparents to take care of your child. And we came back and they put her into shalwar pants. Very cute. There's another area that's a little bit farther to the west but not too far from my daughter's city. It was kind of a holy temple built by, it's the Zeus temple, Hellenistic time period.
So those are from the Greek times?
Let's see. I have a little notes. It was actually originally built by a cult, an old cult.
Yes.
I don't really see what the time period is, but The Seleucid Empire around 300 BC. So very old. So just amazing, to me, amazing art, some of these things were just huge. Like here's one of the gates, and my daughter with the baby for size perspective. And here's another castle off of the shoreline of Mersin, which is to the west of Adana, where you can go to the water. Means daughter's castle. And so the king had built it out on the island to protect his daughter from, actually, there was a story about that a prophet told him that a snake was going to kill his daughter. So he put her out there where there's no snakes. And I think the story is universal. It's like a snake came in a basket of grapes and got her anyway. But it's very interesting. You can take a little boat across, which we did, and walk around and see the old tiles. And what was interesting to me, here's another story, is that when you want to climb around, there's no railings, there's no guardrails, and I asked my daughter, those are the steps that you go up to get to the top of the walls, and I said, where's the railings? What happens if somebody falls? They say, the Turks feel like, you gotta take care of yourself, what are you, what's wrong with you if you climb up there and fall off? And here's another castle that is to the east of Adana. It's called Yelinkali, which means snake castle, and it's a very old one too. It's Armenian, actually 12th and 13th century Armenian castle. And then here's the picture from the poster that you all saw. This is north of that snake castle. There's the Anavarsa ruins, and the castle is up. You can see up on the top here. The castle's up high, and then down below there's a huge area that the city was in. And these are gates to the city that used to be there. And we walked up partway to the castle, but it was a hot day, so we didn't go all the way up. And that's my best picture I got of it. And so down at the bottom, here's still the fields where the city was. On one end of where the road came in, they had rebuilt this archway. And the funny story is we pulled up, it's just, open for people to come look at. We're the only ones there, and through that opening I started looking, I go, something's coming. And a herd of hundreds of sheep came through. And we're just like, what's going on? Much to our enjoyment and to my grandson's delight, they were very calm. And I think every day this herd of sheep is taken out to the fields out there where the old city was and graze, and they were coming home for the evening. And we happened to be right in their way, and they ended up passing by once they figured out we weren't a threat to them, and going around our car to get through where they normally go through. We happened to park right in their pathway. It was quite entertaining. And when I saw the last few sheep coming and a lady following them with the sheep herder, I stood on the edge of that archway and got a shot of the last little sheep coming home. Okay, the next, I'm going through towns that we went through. This is the town of Konya, so here's Adana. Konya is over here. We had traveled by car all the way to Uludeniz, and on our way back, we stopped and stayed one night in Konya. And it is known as the last home of Rumi, the poet, the Turkish poet, yeah. So he was famous for, and the whirling dervishes are seen here in Konya too. And this is
Sufis.
the Sufis, thank you. And anybody can help me, you can help me. So this is from our hotel window, looking out on the rooftops in Konya. Oh, those were pretty. Okay, here's another town, Mersin, I'm thinking this might be, I might be mistaken, it might be Tarsus, which they're right next to each other. And here's Adana, and Tarsus and Mersin are really close to it. But Tarsus is known as the home of St. Paul, the apostle. He was from Tarsus, and there's a well that you can go see. It's called Paul's Well. But he was a Turkish Jew before the angel came down. On the road to Damascus, he was converted to become a Christian. And as you're going through little streets, sometimes there will be a door open and you can see into somebody's private courtyard, and it's just beautiful to be able to walk around the old towns. And my next site is in Istanbul. I took that flight to Istanbul, which is from Adana. It's just a couple-hour flight up to Istanbul. And this is my tour guide. I took a half-day tour of the city and a half-day tour on the boat ride, but I just have the city tour. This is my guide from the bus. Her name was Daria. She was wonderful, and she took us to, there's a few old Christian buildings. She figured, the Americans want to see where the Christian temples were. It's called, let's see, Chora, the Chora Church. It's from the Byzantine era, and it had saints and pictures of Mary and Jesus. Here's where, when you're in there, you're looking up. And then here's street scenes in Istanbul. Beautiful. Just walking down the roads, there's mosques and people taking care of the gardens. And from my hotel room, not from the room, but from the top floor where the restaurant was, this is a view from that top floor of the Blue Mosque, which is famous in Istanbul. In Istanbul, yeah. And then along the seashore, this is a cute story. The little boys were sitting and cracking open mussels, which comes from the Bosporus Sea, and they saw me with my camera, and they all jumped up and that was real touching to me to see how kids and all the people in Turkey are that way. Were like, you're taking a picture of me. They're friendly people. Okay, another city views. This is Gaziantep, which we went to this year, and it is far to the east of, well, not far, but to the east of Adana. We took a rental car. We went to a mosaic museum there, which we'll see pictures from in a little bit. So this is in the main street in Gaziantep, the big city, Gaziantep. And then there's a castle, Gaziantep Castle, right on a hill. That's an interesting one. It was first built by the Hittites, and then over the years expanded on by different people that had come in and lived there. And this is the castle on the hill in Gaziantep. And then while we're coming back down from the castle, we go through these very worn stones that are probably original from the Hittites. I don't know. And just beautiful scenes in the city. Okay, this is another area called Aspendos. It's a Roman theater that was built. It's kind of in this area. And it is still used today to have festivals. So very long-running theater. And we walked all up and down and went up to the top by unguarded steps again.
Did you try the acoustic, Sharon?
No, I didn't. We could have. So when you're up on the top, you can look across behind the stage and up the facade. There was this carving, and we looked it up and we figured out it was Dionysus, the god of theater. So it's a Roman theater, but it was built by Greeks. So you get your Greek and your Roman gods. Dionysus is Bacchus, I think. So. And then this is up at the top, walking through the arches. My daughter and my grandkids. And they did have some guards of the windows looking out. A few places. Here's some more countryside scenes as we drove through countryside. Every town, of course, has its mosque, and some were really pretty. And then just there's a lot of fields and farms and these tall trees. We still didn't figure out what they were, but you can see how big they are by how little that donkey is at the bottom of it. And then here's scenes from up in the mountains. We went to go see this bridge, which you might recognize. It's called the actually seen in a James Bond movie called Skyfall. And when the beginning scenes of the movie, they're on a train and they're fighting, you know. But it was built by the Germans during the it was an Ottoman German project from Istanbul. It's called the Istanbul-Baghdad rail line to connect Berlin with Basra to be able to bring oil to Germany. So the Germans helped build this bridge. It's often called, in Turkey, it's often called the German Bridge. And here's more scenes from up in the mountains. And here's a scene at this is actually in a whole different area, but I thought it was an interesting picture. This is a 100-year-old olive tree, and it's in the courtyard of a mosque. And there's it's a caravan route where people would come through. And now I'm gonna show you scenes from Cappadocia area, which is where there's the volcanic tuff is a really soft rock, and they would dig out homes into the soft rock. But anyway, our big highlight, me and my granddaughter took a balloon ride, which is a very popular thing to do in Cappadocia. And it was quite a wonderful experience to do this.
Do they actually manage to land the balloons in the same place they took off?
No, but they have. So the truck that takes us there chases and they've got, they're modern, they've got their walkie-talkies and, and you can see the countryside there. Probably the volcanic areas that created this volcanic stuff. So here's where you can see, this is the town of Gorame. It's like there's really not a town called Cappadocia, it's just the region is called that, and this is, the town of Gorame is the main central. And here's where you see the volcanic rock that's been carved into, and then the more modern town. After the flight, my granddaughter was a little frazzled by that. So then we went on tours of the carved out caves, and it's pretty interesting.
That's where the monk lived in those caves.
So this is inside one of them. It was very interesting to see how they would have rooms that would be the kitchen room and the storage rooms and the bedrooms, and very interesting place. And this is in the main part of town where I think they call this one the castle.
Wow.
How did I get up here?
There's ways. This is just one side of it.
Are people still living in these?
There may be some. I mean, I don't think so. But there's one valley called Pigeon Valley. This is Pigeon Valley, and in the rock faces there's like just holes, and we're like, what do those go to? And they were chipped out so that the pigeons would nest there, because even back then they knew that the pigeons coming in would poop on the fields and fertilize it. So they wanted as many pigeons to come and live there. So Pigeon Valley. Okay, now to the waterways. This is a little town called Yumurtaluk, which means, I think, egg nest. Egg nest. And it is from Madonna. It's pretty close. It's this little inlet of water. And I used to be there, and I'd look across. I said, "Am I looking at Syria?" But it's actually, there's a Hatay region of Turkey that we're seeing from Yumurtaluk. This is me in the early days. So that you see there, that's the harbor, is behind me here. Yeah. And here's a picture of a sunset on that same harbor there. And here's scenes from driving and seeing. So the beautiful part of Turkey is the Mediterranean Sea. They call it Akdeniz, which is bright sea. And it was pretty bright when you're driving. And the thing about the Turkish coastline, it's very rugged. Mountains are coming right down into the ocean quite often. But there's little bays and coves, and you get to go have seafood. Here's a picture of the mountain comes right into the water. But the water is really clear, and refreshing, and there's not big waves like in the ocean, so this is the Mediterranean Sea has the waves. It's a very popular thing. You go to the beach, enjoy the water. Let's see how we're doing. We're doing pretty good. So this was in these pictures were when we went to, I don't know if I pronounced it right, Uludines, which is way down here. I've actually got it marked on the map. So that was the farthest we went on a rental car. And you can take a boat, which we did, to this valley, this beach called Butterfly Valley, and you cannot get to it by road. You have to get to it by boat. So we rented a boat and we were taken there, and we stayed there a couple hours and got back on the boat and went back to the resort town, which is pictured here, where there's, you know, lots of tourists, and the cool thing about the mountains next to the beaches is they have all the paragliders that you can, of course, rent, which we didn't do. I would have loved it, but you go up to the top and you take off and you circle around, and then when they landed, they're coming right along the walkway over. I mean, when we first got there, we're just like wandering out there, and everybody's going, get out of the way, get out of the way. We're like, whoa. There's somebody landing, you can see them.
Is this mostly Turkish tourists?
No, there's actually in Uludines, like a lot of Russians and a lot of German and European and American too. As well as Turkish tourists. Okay, now I'm gonna go on to museums. So here's a museum that is no longer there. It's in Adana, and it was the Adana Museum, and it was right next to that big mosque. And they have now built a new, bigger museum in the town of Adana, still close to my daughter's house. And all these pots and things that are outside in this museum are now inside, under glass, where you can't touch them. But back then, but now this particular pot I've seen in the new museum underneath, you know, where you can't even get close to it. It's pretty funny.
Aladdin gonna be popping out.
Oh, I think they use those pots for storage of, I don't know, grains, oils. What do you think? I don't know. And then there's carvings of, these are like, you know, caskets where people are buried in good cards.
Could you go
Here's
back
in the museums. Which one do you want to see?
to the one, yeah.
That one, yeah.
Is that an Annunciation?
It is actually on one of those, casket type things. What do you call those? What's the other word? Sarcophagus,
Yeah.
thank you. And, what's interesting is this one was on the old museum that's now in the new museum. It looks even cleaner. I think this is at the new museum. But I noticed I took pictures of the same things, you know, years before, and we're in the new museum. I'm taking pictures because certain things would catch my eye. I mean, the depth of carving on this is just fascinating to me.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's an Annunciation, so the figure on the left would be the Virgin Mary, and the Archangel Gabriel to the right.
I like that. Very well could be. I have no idea.
Yeah.
On the
First
edge of
you
this
see on a sarcophagus would
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. And then this is in the museum, the old dress of archers. I like that there was a woman warrior along with the men warriors. I don't have information for you of what time period this is. And then near the Cappadocia region, there's a big river, and there's a lot of clay, so a lot of pottery was done in that area. So we went to the pottery museum in that area, and they had modern pottery, which is beautiful. This is very classic Turkish designs. I mean, such detail. This is a close-up of a big platter. And then they had ancient pottery from that same area. And interesting, I love this. And then the interesting thing, like oil lamps. This one kind of gives you 400 BC to 500 AD. The oil lamps made of the terracotta. And then you've heard of Turkish tobacco. The people smoked tobacco back then, and they found so many tobacco pipes. I mean, I'm assuming tobacco. But I thought that was fascinating. Okay, and here's a mosaic museum. And what I liked about their museum is that they would spread out the mosaics and then they would show, you know, how it was used. Like this would be like a fountain, you know, public bath or something. And then they had paintings of like the scenery behind it to show how it was used. And so I'll give you some pictures of some of the intricate mosaics that we got to see. Here's my hand. So it's the, and I love the patterns. I thought, oh, these could be quilt patterns. The ancient dolphins, peacocks stealing your fruit. And I love this one because I myself have goats and ducks, and this is a goat and a duck. So that's my mosaic. That would be on my floor. And then game birds, scenes, and look at the designs around it. It's amazing. Okay. And another intricate designs. I mean, it's all flat, but it sure looks 3D, right? Okay, next I'm going to show you in the cities, there's always bazaars, the places to go shopping. And this one happens to be in Gaziantep, and then places where you could get your inlaid mother of pearl in the wood. Just all kinds of crafts. Street singers. And this is the bazaar in Istanbul. It's a very similar thing where you see, where you have all kinds of stuff you can buy, including lamps made out of gourds that were pierced and put their stones in. You see how we're doing good on that. In loose stones, and then as you go along, you see a little workshop where people are making things with these stones and making jewelry. And being I've been a jeweler all my life, so I was always fascinated with the Turkish jewelry, so I got some pictures of jewelry. Very interesting, old designs, new modern styles. You can just buy all kinds of stuff there. That was really pretty. This is very Turkish style to me. And this is the tulip flower shape. So just to tell you that the tulips that you think of, you know, Amsterdam or Europe actually originally came from Turkey, and they were taken to Europe and cultivated. And so the tulip is a very popular motif in Turkey, as well as the chrysanthemum flower. And there was a lot of gold markets where you can buy gold jewelry. And pearls. I hardly would ever see pearls, but there was one place I saw this whole hanks of pearls. And since like I said, I was in the jewelry business for a long time. And a lot of public spaces have, you know, sculptures and carvings. This is modern. So back in Adana, and then other crafts that you find in Old Town Adana, they're very famous for they do the old style of tin plating of the kitchenware. So that all that kitchenware is tin plated. And I got to watch this man. It's like the old style of holding it over heat, and then he was dipping something, and he'd rub on it, and it would look all shiny and like running liquid metal. And look at it, make sure it's all perfectly clean, and then dip it down into the water and quench it. It was very interesting. And then in Adana, there's big bazaars, big markets of. This was called a women's bazaar, where you get all sorts of handcrafts. Dolls that are crocheted, little dolls that are made out of felt, the knit and crochet baby clothes, and the women sitting there working on it. And beadwork. And then, of course, in towns you would find the weavings and textiles. And I bought this little. This is very inexpensive. It's not actual woven. It's just I didn't spend the money on some expensive ones. And then now I'm going to get to the food. And you'll be hungry, and you'll want to go have some snacks in a little bit, because this is the last section of my slideshow. So the story. One thing that I noticed about Turkey and Adana, and probably most towns, is every corner has a bakery. There are pastries, there's bread. It's like, when I first moved there, my daughter lived in an apartment, and there would be, every morning, a man would come through all the floors of the apartments. They're selling the big loaves of bread for your daily loaf of bread that you wanna buy. And I really enjoyed that. I said, why don't we have a bakery on every floor? And then here's sweets like donut holes. I don't know what it's called in Turkish. We were watching them making in the window, and then it's very sugary coated. And then what's famous there is the Turkish coffee, the coffee cups, and as well as espresso. Yes, Nescafe. And then also here's, speaking of food, so in Adana is, it's along the river. It is, I'm not sure about all of Turkey, but in the Adana region, southern region, it is farms and fields. And so every week, a couple days a week, this one street would be filled up with the market for fruits and vegetables. Oh, yeah, this is really interesting. Well, you recognize the strawberry and banana, but in the early spring, these are actually green almonds. Green almonds. And so as they,
The red stuff?
strawberries,
Oh,
strawberries,
sweet, big ones.
big ones. Well, the almonds are only about this big, but they're green and they're totally soft and very tart. And when you buy them, you dip them in salt, and you keep these tart green almonds with salt.
I use it.
Did you like that? Yeah. It was very interesting. The peppers, like, they're just, I just love walking up and down where the fresh vegetables are, greens. Everywhere you go when you're ordering food, you get your greens and your meze platter, which is usually lots of salads, and I'll show you some pictures of that too. So this is a celery root. The people in Adana, they don't really sell packages of celery, which I was looking for because I wanted to make chicken and dumplings, make chicken soup. And this is the best I could do, was get a celery root and use the tops of it. It looks like they don't eat celery so much, but eggplants, which is used in many dishes, tomatoes. And this is how they sell the eggs from the farmer's market. I mean, you can buy them in the grocery store and cartons too, but at the farmer's market, you can buy them fresh from the farm. Men's, yeah. And then there's not a lot of in this area, there's not a lot of mechanical farm equipment. People get out in the fields and work the fields and tend them as well as harvest. This is back at the women's bazaar, where one section was all the crafts, and the other side you can get food. And they're making it for you right there. And heating, this is a hot thing, heating up tea, which we got going over there. And cooking on the roadside when you're driving, you see roadside places that will sell the lamb chops, which we took advantage of. Cooking. And roadside selling of I think it's what's the
It is called simit.
It's like a bagel.
Yeah.
We're just in the city and we see this guy selling from this stand. He went right too fast for us to buy any extra food.
Yeah, it is good.
It's
It's
food.
like
It's
potatoes,
It's like it's the simit.
sesame seeds.
And the restaurants would be cooking outside, so you smell it cooking and eating. Here's my favorite dish in Adana. They're famous for what they call Adana kebab, and it's made with lamb and lots of spices and served with roasted vegetables. And this is a piece of lamb, another part of the lamb just roasted. I can't remember the name. And this is what they call the meze, where you get your salads and your lamb chops. And here's in the market there. This was early in the morning. They were just putting out the fish on the ice for you to buy. Not put on the ice yet. And then the restaurants along the coast. This is a seafood restaurant that we would go to quite often. You can get your calamari. And I think this is scallops that were grilled. Came to the table sizzling. Delicious. And then this is a sea vegetable that's been pickled. And this is me getting my plate of whole fish with vegetables on the side. And there's a mezzi. This is early days. That's the father of my grandchildren, Hugh, and my daughter. And then this was a seafood restaurant near the lakes in Adana, and they brought out the big fish. Is this good for you? Okay, good. They take it back and they bring out the platter of it cut up and fried for us. And we're like, wow. And then in Cappadocia, there's another kebab that's actually basically like a stew cooked in a clay pot. And then these are made with bread on top to keep it sealed up and hot. And when you order it, you get it, you break it open or take the bread off the top. And the roadside stands of the apple orchards, and you get your fresh apples. And the roadside stands of the bananas, and there's preserves, honey, there's even vinegars, just anything that they would make, you can come stop and buy. And this is in the grocery stores. I'm talking about if you're on a diet, it's really hard. All the candies. They have a lot of the European candies there as well as the Turkish brands. And then you can also buy your alcohol there. I mean, that's the thing about modern Turkey. It's it's not a religious country. It's not run by the religion. It's secular, so you can buy your alcohol if you want. But that's actually a good picture of the grocery store where there's the produce back there and there's sodas and then your cabinet. Of course, you can't, kids can't just grab the bottles, so that's good. And here's on streets where there's apricot trees, they pick them and dry them themselves, and then you can, in all the markets, you would have bins and baskets of nuts and fruits and seeds, like sunflower seeds. I believe these are pistachios. We were there during pistachio season, and hazelnuts, and I believe sunflower seeds, and I'm not sure, maybe almond, peanuts, dried fruits, and toys, and of course there's candy. Well, there's another market where you can, like a cafeteria, it's along the sidewalk, you can stop and order food, and then go inside and sit, and it's wonderful food. And a lot of carts on the street for what's in season. So this had the hazelnut and pistachio were in season at that time. And the candies, oh my gosh. They make so many good candies. We're getting close to the end, so y'all can get some food. Dried eggplant, dried peppers, dried zucchini. I'm not sure what the white one, I think another squash one. And then sausages, called sujuk. Always made with either beef or lamb. They don't eat pork. And then you can just get, there's places where you can get burgers, and this is a fried chicken place too. It was funny to me is, they call it penny fried chicken. It's hard to go a package of 50 pieces. And then tavuk is chicken, so chicken burger. And then here in Adana, this is in Adana, near my daughter's apartment. It's called Muzlu Soup, which is basically a banana milkshake. And that's their main thing. I mean, they have juices that they'll juice for you, and my grandson's favorite place. So, playing at the park in the evening when it's hot in the summer, they stop at Muzlu Soup, get a banana shake, and this is a grilled cheese sandwich they call toast. They just call it toast, but it's grilled in a.
But by the way, the weather in Adana is like Houston, so it is
Yes,
very humid.
It's very humid, very hot. They only go when it's getting dark, and the little parks are lit up. And then here's me and my grandkids in Adana on the Roman Bridge. We picked up some snacks. And then here's in Adana too. There's a lot of, along the sidewalks, you'll see, little stands with the juices for you. And you got narsuyu, which is pomegranate, Muzlusu, shalagam, which I don't know if I can even explain what shalagam is. It's made out of beets and
Red carrot.
and it's kind of very salty, and it's the red carrots, and kind of salty, I think it's fermented, but it's not alcoholic at all. And then Coca-Cola, and then Portugal, which is orange. And I'm down to the very end, this is pomegranates. I remember when I first went there, I was like, I want to buy some pomegranates, so I was like, tell them I want this, and they're going, okay, and they juice it. And they juice it like with the same orange juicer, so I got orange and pomegranate mix, and give them to you, I'll give those, and come and visit Turkey. That's my last slide. I hope you enjoyed my pictures, and
No more
we
questions.
have about 10 minutes, like, if you have any questions, or
What's the population
of Adana, it's I'd say it's the 5th largest city in Turkey. Not the largest. I have numbers of the population of the country, which is 84 million in 2020.
Well, Adana would be one
But
of the
Adana-
larger cities.
It's one of the largest cities.
yes.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
That's like.
yeah, it's a big city. I mean, some of those pictures that we were seeing, I don't know about how to get back.
What is the largest city?
Probably Istanbul. I bet Istanbul.
Almost 20 million, I guess.
Yeah, you can pick it up for me. But yeah, it's a very large city. Most people live in apartments, but then on the outer edges, there's places where you can buy a house and have a yard. And most people live in apartments.
So good for you to take
Şöyle
several
resim
parts of
Ankara'dan
it.
hiç resim yok.
That's it.
No.
And airport.
Oh yeah, there's a small airport in Adana. And actually, they can send a larger airport, but the people that live there want their little airport because it's so much easier to get to, and the big airports, there's like, at least, well, they have built a new airport in Istanbul. To get to Adana, I have to fly through Istanbul and then get on a domestic flight to Adana, which is not too bad. It's a couple hour flight.
So how long of the flight is it total?
To get to Istanbul from like the East Coast, it's about 12 hours on the plane, and then you get on another plane to get, wait
So
for
when you
11.
leave here, where do you fly out of?
I fly out of Austin,
Okay. And then you
and
go.
actually the Houston International Airport will go directly, I don't know if Austin will go directly to Istanbul.
No, Dallas and Houston.
Okay, those Dallas.
No, Dallas.
Dallas,
Yeah,
okay.
and then Chicago,
So
and
this-
New York,
Yeah,
and I guess there's one direct flight
there's
from
one in Washington DC.
Los Angeles, I guess, and there's a
Los
bonus
Angeles.
flight.
So the last time I flew, I went to Washington DC, because I went there first.
That's a hell of a lot of fun.
And oftentimes I've learned that I can take a flight from Austin and go, like, I have Sky Miles through Delta, so last time I went to Germany, and then the flight from there, and I was able to use my Sky Miles, and the flight from there was a lot less expensive from Germany to Turkey than it would have been from the States.
What do you carry for your photographic equipment?
I usually just take my little camera. I don't take a big one. This last time is a Canon. I used to always have a Nikon little camera.
Like a pocket camera? Oh, like a pocket camera?
It's lightweight. Yeah, it's not my big camera. Just in.
What are your favorite birds in southern Turkey?
What's interesting there is I see some birds that I would see here. You can see coots. You can see the cattle egret are in Turkey too. But so in the city, there's these doves that are brown and spotted, and then there's these crows that are very loud. They're called hooded crows. They're black with kind of a white head, and they're very loud through the city.
Rock
They're very rock. There's you saw the pictures. Yes, Robert.
In where Rudy came from, do people celebrate his legacy?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, there's, I know in Konya, they say that's the last place he lived. I don't know if he's from there, but I don't know the last place he lived. But
In Pakistan, I know the Sufis are persecuted a lot. I don't know about
They're
Turkey.
definitely not, I mean, there's different regions of Turkey where there's, you know, I don't really, I can't, I'm not an expert on that part. The Sufism, I don't think is persecuted. And there's the different Muslim sects that
Yeah.
have conflict, but I don't really know much about that. Would y'all like to have some tea? Other people, come and enjoy yourself.
Do they have good mass transit in the town where your daughter
Oh,
lives?
yeah, there's buses, there's the bus lines, there's trains that would go from city to city, which we never really took the trains, but we would, you know, hop on a bus, and then the taxis are very inexpensive. And so if we need to go, like, to a appointment, you know, she'll call the taxi, and there's a taxi stand at the end of
She
the
doesn't
street.
have a car.
She does not have a car. It's sort of like living in New York, you don't really want to have a car.
Wherever
Because
it
then
is.
well, in her apartment, there's parking that's behind the gate. When I rent the car, we park behind the gate, and then there's, down in the basement, there's basement parking too. Yes, Catherine.
Have you ever been to, what was it? Ankara.
I have not been to Ankara yet. I would love to go. That's the capital city, correct?
Yes, I was born in Ankara.
I've been in between. I mean, I've flown over it probably, but I haven't been to it yet.
Maybe next time we get together.
Maybe next time.
Where is Cappadocia?
It is,
South of Ankara.
it's right here, Cappadocia.
Inside the nation.
And so it was actually not a bad car drive, probably a 4-hour drive, like going from Austin to Dallas.
Where is Mount Ararat, and what is it called in Turkish?
I don't know.
It is just on the border of the.
Albania, you see Albania there? It's just next, east next, yeah, Mount Ararat.
The big Ararat mountain.
And they call it Ağrı. Ağrı. The city name is Ağrı, and in English it means pain. Ağrı, yeah. Ağrı mountain.
Yeah, we are looking at Ağrı'dan mı?
I have some tea, I would actually like to have. After talking all this time.
Very